Good morning to the honorable ministers of the council, members of the media, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, Telems, Tel TV Plus Channel 15, respective radio stations island-wide, and online viewers. I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, July 12, 2023. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, Egbert Duran, to address you. Minister Duran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Good morning to you, your team, the representatives of the press, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin that are tuned in. Today, I have a few brief updates for you. Let's start with the basketball court. Last Sunday, I had the pleasure of being at the soft reopening of the St. Peter's basketball court. The court floor was recently upgraded by the Ministry of Rummy, along with assistance from the contractor who carried out the work, Island Paints BV. It is very important that we continue to ensure that we have the facilities for our young people to use. It was a good feeling to see the faces of the young men and women who expressed their satisfaction with the improvements that were carried out. I want to again thank the contractor who donated some of the man hours and materials to this project. The public-private partnerships such as these are always welcome. I also want to thank the National Sports Institute who assisted in gathering the necessary information to make this project come to fruition. We are currently in the process of finalizing a few more locations where we will be doing something similar in terms of resurfacing and making repairs where we can. For this as well, the Infrastructure Management Department will be rendering assistance to us in making these projects come to reality. I recently signed a memorandum of understanding to begin the conservational project titled Corena with the Nature Foundation of St. Martin. The Coastal Resilience Needs Assessment, referred to as Corena, intends to advance the progress towards sustainable and resilient area-based management of the marine and coastal environment of St. Martin. The MOU between the agreeing parties details the working arrangements that each of the parties decided is necessary to carry the project, which the budget lines are to be allocated to each project partner to support this implementation process. I believe this project puts the Ministry of Rummy on a tangible trajectory that supports our professionals with the evidence-based data that improves the practical policy department, which is also one of our end goals with this project, Corena. This is an investment that will have high returns as a reward for the generation and, most importantly, upcoming generations who will be experiencing the open-ended changes of our climate change. Today, I'm also pleased to announce that the proposal for the establishment of Little Key Park in Simpson Bay Lagoon has been officially approved by the Council of Ministers. This significant milestone marks a crucial step forward in the preservation and enhancement of the island natural environment. The proposal, which includes a draft national decree containing general measures LBHAM and explanatory memorandum NVT, seeks to formalize its designation of Little Key as a nature park. The proposed park aligns with the naming of the Convention of the Nature Parks in the region and reflects the importance of preservation of natural habitats. We are still looking at other areas which we can designate as well. Once this is decided upon, we will definitely make it public. The protection of the land we have is key. Also, I'm pleased to announce that I have signed a lease agreement for a unique attraction on the island. This attraction, called the West Indies Museum, it is an underwater museum. The concept is to create an underwater artificial reef attraction for St. Martin, celebrating culture and the history of the West Indies, all the while promoting the conservation of our oceans. The project would be the second of its kind in this region, and I look forward to seeing come to fruition finally. This project has been vetted and approved by all relevant stakeholders, including the Tourist Office, the Ministry of TIAT, the Culture Department, and the environmental organizations such as the Nature Foundation, NCMARC, and the Archaeological Foundation. I believe that this is a great step towards enhancing our product that we have and we portray as a tourism destination with attractions such as this. The Integrated Solid Waste Vision. On Thursday, June 29th, 2023, my colleagues and I approved the St. Martin National Vision for Better Solid Waste Management under the slogan, Think Green and Keep St. Martin Clean. The national vision outlines a greener and more sustainable future for St. Martin, emphasizing a collective and personal responsibility to tackle the country's waste management challenges. The vision sketches a framework where solid waste materials are reduced, reused, and recycled, and where waste management is structurally funded and executed by a to-be-established local waste authority. Over the next few weeks, we will be presenting more details on this vision. I would also like to stop for a moment to address some of the recent statements made by a local personal media outlet. As Minister of Rummy, I have never allowed anyone to use the ministry to campaign. It is sad that some of these persons who aspire to be politicians use the emotions of the people by misleading them to reach their goal. One thing is for certain, that I find the situation very unfortunate that is taking place or took place in the 911 area. And I already contacted the Housing Development Foundation to inquire on it. And I was told that they will be making a statement on it in terms of addressing the issue. Moreover, they had nothing to do with the road resurfacing or tweaking or dirt being pulled from the road or editing. Basically what took place, and once it rains, the road is in a deplorable state once again. Apparently, there's sort of rogue persons that work for Housing Foundation that took it upon themselves to do this. And I believe that everyone should be addressed and be held accountable for their actions, and don't use the Ministry of Rummy or the Minister of Rummy for their own personal campaign. Lastly, over the last couple of weeks, I've been having several discussions with my counterpart on the front side, Ms. Bernadette Davis, the Vice President, who handles environment in different portfolios, which lines up with the Ministry of Rummy. And we've started a campaign which started a couple of days ago with a sort of an island-wide cleanup, and then kind of bring the attention from the general public to a sort of a culture change in terms of how they litter and how we deal with our waste. One thing is for certain, I believe that St. Martin is our rock, our gem, and we should keep St. Martin clean. We've had several interviews outlining the scope of our project, and this is just the beginning of many collaborative efforts that we intend to carry out as a government with our brothers and sisters on the front side. One of the main takeaways as well is that where we want to collaborate is the synchronizing of the color-coded, disposable, recyclable, reusable bins. You'll see that the front side are already further ahead. So what we're doing is sort of a knowledge-based exchange where they are ahead, we get the information. When we are ahead, we share the information. And I believe collaborative efforts like this will not only benefit the government, but ultimately benefit the people of St. Martin on a whole, French and Dutch, for a better sustainable gem and us taking care of what we have. That will be all for now, Roleka, and I look forward to any questions members of the media might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran, for your opening remarks. If you have just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, July 12, 2023. We now move on to the question and answer session, and Bibi Hatshaw of SMN News, you have the floor.
Good morning, Roleka. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Minister. Minister, I'll take my first clarification question to you before my first question. In addressing the situation at the 911 homes, I can understand your sentiments about wannabe politicians or persons who want to be politicians campaigning while using the medium of the media. But do you believe, Minister, that St. Martin is plagued with sewage? I mean, if it's not sewage on the road, it's sewage backed up in homes. How is it your ministry is working towards addressing these situations? And as I can go into my first question, Minister, can you now give us an update on the trench cleaning contracts and if the retendering has been done?
Thank you for your question, Bibi. On the first point, yes, we do have a sewage problem, and the sewage problem is sort of a multifaceted problem. I'm going to give one example. I think I mentioned this a couple of times in the press as well. Sometimes persons get a building permit to build a 2-bedroom home or a 3-bedroom home, and they end up building 3 apartments with 2 bedrooms, for instance. But the sewage pit doesn't change. That increases overflow and causes issues. That is one. There's also persons that deliberately, once it rains, open up their sewage pits and let it flow on the road as well. I mean, there's no secret to none of us here. Then there's a situation where sometimes, and this is just preliminary, I'm going to let the Housing Foundation speak on their own, because when I inquired as to what could have caused something like this to take place, apparently they're all connected on a main line, and if that is happening, maybe foreign objects were dumped, and that particular spot is blocked because, according to them, nowhere else is blocked at this point. Now, I'm not going to sit here and speculate and say what, where, what. They need to conduct their investigation, and I believe everyone needs to handle their responsibility accordingly, which is, in this case, the Housing Foundation need to highlight and bring out to the public what the concerns are, or deal directly with the individual. I don't think everything is a public discussion, because a lot of things get misconstrued with that in that respect. So I expect for them to clarify it. If they choose to clarify it publicly, then that's on them on that point. So the sewage system that we have, the sewage issues that we have on St. Martin is a great one. And that's why I mentioned as well, over the next 3 years, on a multi-annual budget-based approach, we have allocated 15 million on the capital expenditures budget to deal with wastewater management. It is an issue that has been plaguing the island for, I would say, over 2-3 decades, and it's only increasing with the more buildup that is taking place with persons building homes and or establishments. So that is where wastewater is concerned. One of the projects as well on the trust fund is also dealing with wastewater and enhancing the connectivity to the current plant that we have, and also exploring the options of not exploring, we're in deep conversations for the last, I think, maybe 6-7 years with the French side to collaborate on a joint wastewater treatment plant as well. So all these different aspects or points that government is busy exploring to deal with such. Regarding your question with the trench cleaning contracts, I've still had exchange with the department, because, of course, as you know, the last thing you want to do is waste more time in terms of going over things again. So I've been having discussions with the department. I say discussions, exchange of communication, and we're reaching the final stage, which will be by next week. We will decide on the way forward on that. It's a bit of a tricky situation, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. However, the trenches are clean. There's no threat where that is concerned. We have some rainfall over the last couple of yesterday and today, but the trenches are clean, so there's no threat. For me, the main concern is making sure that the waterways are cleared, and that is the case. The contract is, of course, secondary, important, but secondary for me.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rolika. Good morning, Minister, colleagues. Minister, first, I have some clarifications regarding the underwater reef attraction, and then I'll ask my question in your capacity as Deputy Prime Minister. And my clarification is regarding the agreement that you signed. Who was the agreement signed with? What is the cost? Who will finance that project? Where exactly will it be, and who will be executing it? And regarding my question, government had until mid-July, and we're at that mid-July mark at the moment, to decide on a solution for ENIA. Can you indicate what that solution is? Thank you so much.
I'll try to recap the first question a little bit. Agreement was signed, a rental agreement was signed, because as Minister of Vrumi, you're over FPAC, so land and or water on land, so to speak, because the law doesn't recognize water rights. It recognizes the land that's under the water. Okay. So for that reason, they had to apply for lease or permission to use, which we did, a rental contract for them to use a particular area. Studies were done as to the safety and different things with the Nature Foundation, as I mentioned, CMARC, our policy department as well. And now they have to get the green light from the Ministry of TIAT in order to operate a business, as we know. I'm not going to sit on this platform and disclose the name of company and all those things. I think that they would, when they make when they open or release that would happen, because they're still busy with a process with TIAT. So that still needs to walk the trajectory. So I don't think it would be fitting for me to mention that now. And you mentioned something else?
So, where exactly is this underwater, the plot that they've given, where exactly will that be located? And you're saying you cannot indicate who government signed this lease agreement with? That's what
I'm
you're
not,
saying?
no. I didn't say that. I said I don't feel it's fitting at this point
Okay.
because they're still busy with a process. And I think that should be respected. Maybe by next week, when they mention that they're going to start up their company, then that would be known. But it's not a secret because, just to clarify, everything that is signed in here is public knowledge. So it's not as if Jurendi and the person, but the minister of Country St. Martin signed an agreement. So it's not a secret, but however, I don't feel at this point, with them not finalizing their process with TIAT, it would be fitting for me to mention that.
Okay, and where would it be located? You didn't.
In the area between Great Bay, in the area of Great Bay.
So in town.
Well, more outside. It has to be in a safe area where there's no operations taking place and all the safety precautions have to be adhered to. So that is also steps that they need to take before they can start to operate. So it's a sort of a verification process.
I appreciate those clarifications. And
You're
my
welcome.
question.
All right.
And my question on
Which
Enya.
one?
The
Oh,
Enya solution.
Enya. I don't have any detailed information on that right now. But however, I can reach out to the Prime Minister's cabinet and the Ministry of Finance to get details on that point. They are all tuned in right now, so they're already taking notes to respond to you accordingly.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Thank you, Judy. I would now like to invite Steven Cerulean of PJD2 Radio. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Rich. Good morning to you, Deputy Prime Minister. Interestingly, you said whilst addressing the 911 housing project, you mentioned of rogue individuals, employees working with or for the housing project. Can you elaborate a bit more on that? How do you deal as a ministry responsible with rogue employees, Minister?
Well, the rogue employee is not at the Ministry of Rummy. The reason I mentioned that because the individual works for the Housing Foundation and put out a press release dealing with the road. So when I call the Housing Foundation to inquire, hey, I'm getting complaints about the road and how it is in 911, although private, I have to inquire because, questions were being brought to me. And I was told that this has nothing to do with the Housing Foundation. That in itself is a signal to me. So I'm not going to go into their operations to see how they're going to deal with that, but I'm just going to make it clear to the public because the impression is being made that the Housing Foundation did like a whack job, so to speak. So I'm just giving clarity on that, which was tied into the other individual that is using a platform to campaign on a very unfortunate situation that individuals that live in a house have to deal with in terms of sewage backup. So I hope that brings clarity to your question.
Thank you, Minister Duran. We now move on to the second round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolaika. Minister, as a follow-up to the same 911 situation, has the Housing Foundation indicate to you when and how they will rectify the situation so at least the persons that are getting sewage backup can have some relief? And can you then give us an update on the EDF project in Dutch Quarter? When will this project resume and what is the status of the court case against the contractor?
Thank you, Bibi. I think I was pretty clear, but I'll repeat it again. I had a preliminary discussion with them about the situation to inquire what caused it, how they plan to deal with it, and I was told that there's only one situation now, so it's not as if all the houses are backing up, but for me, one is one too many, and I was also told preliminary that they are assuming that foreign objects have been dropped in that particular home that is causing this, because they're all connected to one main line. So basically, if there's a problem with the main line, they will have a problem in all the homes. That is what I was told. However, I didn't go on the ground to see what is the case, and I urged them to investigate and find out in order to advise the persons that reside there so that they can be helped in this very unfortunate situation that they have to deal with. I hope that brings more clarity to it. Your question was again? The EDF. Okay. Tomorrow we have a kickoff meeting with the contractors, and we're going to get the full details, and after tomorrow will be released to the general public, well, more to the Dutch Quarter community on the stepwise plan of approach on how we plan to deal with that situation. And the court case, you mentioned the court case. We're currently busy with the court case with the former contractor, Van Boekel, as I mentioned back then, and that is currently ongoing. Nothing has changed since the last time I mentioned it.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Judy, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Minister, some groups that are concerned with the whole issue of drag racers and bikers, they expressed some frustration in a recent parliament meeting over the fact that they've been constantly lobbying to receive a plot of land so that they can, establish a drag race facility to get all of the drag racing that is on the street and the bikers who are doing their wheelies on the street to a safe location. And they're indicating that they do not receive a response. And so their frustration level is getting high. So my question to you is this something that is on government's agenda? Will they get a land? Is this under consideration? And if so, how soon?
Well, Judy, to be quite honest, I enjoy the drag racing. I enjoy the bike racing very much. I attend basically any and every event that comes to the island. When you mentioned that they're not receiving a response, I find that very weird because I have regular contact with individuals that are inquiring for the land. So I think maybe old information or maybe a particular group that I don't know about. However, one of my things I always tell them is, please show me where. Show me the land that you feel is available, and we'll do it. I'm 100,000% willing to do it because I believe that it not only encourages persons to stop doing not only dangerous stunts on the road, but it's a booster as well. When they had an event here I think it was about a year and a half ago, where the Ministry of Rummy removed the speed bumps to allow them to have a sort of a drag strip right here on Swaliga Boulevard. It was a great turnout, and people come from away as well to participate in these things. Just last weekend, I wanted to go to Statia, but couldn't make it because of time constraints to attend a race over there. So the appetite is there. However, based on poor spatial planning, maybe, I will put it at that, we have limited space to do that. And you need a proper stretch of land, flat land. You can't do it in the hills. Most of the land availability right now is in the hills, or you would have to fill in somewhere, which will cause controversy within itself. I don't think that it's impossible, but I think it's going to take some serious attention, and also you have to look at the economic benefit on someone investing in such. At the end of the day, I mentioned about public-private partnerships, and if a public-private partnership can come out to execute a project like this, I am more than willing. My question has always been, where do you see it fit to do it? I personally think for the time being, we can use here. We even had a plan of approach that was submitted by one of the organizations to have replaceable speed bumps, so to speak, on this Swaliga Boulevard. But then the issue there is that you can't have two cars racing at the same time because the road is not wide enough based on safety issues. So there's always something that's bumping back and forth. Then you would have one car and you time it, and then another car, which is a bit, taken away from the excitement, so to speak. So again, just to synopsize, I'm more than willing, open for ideas. We've been discussing internally. It has been a discussion and a campaign promise many times, even way before I came into the arena. But I think that finding the location is pretty much the biggest challenge that we face.
May I ask a follow-up?
Go ahead, Judy.
They indicated, the Drag Racers Association, Mr. Connor indicated in that parliament meeting, which was held on the 21st, I believe, that they had proposed a location, if I'm quoting him correctly.
I would love to be more enlightened in that, so if you can make the connection, I would love to do that. I would have no issue exploring that.
Okay, the parliament meeting was the 21st.
I wasn't in parliament with
Okay.
them.
All right, thank you so much for the clarity.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran, and thank you, Judy. Stephen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Rich. Minister, the peak hurricane season is quickly approaching. Can you give us a step-by-step as to what the ministry is doing to ensure the safety of everybody?
Well, That's a great question indeed, Stephen, which ties into the cleanup campaign. All the different garbage haulers have been publishing the cleanup schedules for different waste and things that you want to get rid of that can serve as projectiles, so to speak. Finally, I could see the happiness maybe when you pass on Pondfield to see that the former administration building is down. I'm happy that we reached that milestone. That can also serve as a projectile in a dilapidated building. We've been spared over the last couple of years from any sort of a serious threat. However, it's better to stay ready so you don't need to get ready. We've published certain buildings. We started in the Phillipsburg area of buildings that are in a dilapidated state to have them removed by the owner before we proceed with any sort of far-reaching measures, which would be the court, of course. So we are making strides in that direction. So the cleanup, dilapidated buildings, and also we have a team that are busy, that have been, going around seeing what can serve as a threat, which ties into the buildings and other things that can serve as projectiles. So we're cleaning up. Basically, in a nutshell, the ministry is cleaning up and advising and making sure that our waterways are cleared, and also exploring different options all the time. I mean, we are faced with a gun to our head every year around this time. So I think I have full confidence then in the ministry and the staff within, especially the infrastructure management department, to be on our P's and Q's, as well as in close collaboration with the AOC.
Thank you, Minister Duran, and thank you, Stephen. We now move on to the third round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rolika. Minister, can you give us an update on the project regarding the Parliament building? Recently, I asked about this project, and I was told that the tendering was soon to take place. How are we with this? And also, there is a situation where I've been receiving quite a number of complaints from small residents that are requesting building permits for residential homes. The delay, it takes close to a year for the processing of these permits, even land transfers. Can you explain what is the hold-up for such a thing when like a resident want to like build a home, or if they purchase a land from someone and they want the deed transferred, it's taking like over a year or close to a year. What exactly is the hold-up?
Your first question regarding the bidding for the Parliament building, I cannot comment on that, so my colleague would have to give a response on that, because the Ministry of VRUMI is not handling that. Just to give a synopsis, VRUMI is over the land, Prime Minister is over the facilities, and Finance is over the finance. So we are not handling anything to do with the tendering of that particular project. So I would gladly have them respond to you on that point. And regarding the building permits and the transfer, we are mixing two things together. There's two separate things, two separate departments. I must say, since taking office, we have made a significant improvement in terms of executing building permit requests. So anyone that is waiting for a permit request for a residential home for 1 year, I'm going to say right here now, email the cabinet, which is minvromi@stmartingov.org, minvromi@stmartingov.org, and I would gladly look into it, because that is just not normal. I look at permits. I've signed permits up to 2 days ago, and they're recent permits or ending of 22 or something like that, never over a year or anything. So that's pretty strange to me. There are permits that have delays and issues, so maybe 1 or 2 persons can approach you, but most of the time they have to make corrections, and then they don't respond to certain emails that we send. So those are particular cases. So that can cause a delay, of course. With regards to the transfers, we've been have challenges in the Domain Affairs Department when it comes to manpower, but I think that the issue that we have here in terms of human resource, it's a structural issue which I've already started discussions to rearrange. Just to give an insight to the general public on how things work, we have a structure where there's a department head, a policy advisor, a head staff member, and one junior staff member, so to speak. I believe it has to be, well, actually 3 spots for junior staff members, For me, it has to be opposite. It has to be 3 head workers and 1 junior, because the level and the complexity of the work that they have to do requires persons to function on that level. So I think that the function book in itself has caused a problem over the years in terms of the productivity, and we're now revisiting that. Of course, we're here now. We realize what the issue that we have in terms of the functioning of the department, and we are paying attention to remedy that as soon as possible. However, even there, we have made strides to improve the transfers that are taking place. And sometimes some transfers, if you don't have a structure on the land, you can't transfer it, because in the deed states you have to have a livable structure or commercial structure, whatever have you. Those are proven to be challenges as well. Sometimes people put a foundation and think, oh, I put a foundation, so now we could transfer. That is not the case, because the deeds states differently. So those are situations that we're facing as well. And I'm glad you asked that question, because I think that it brings a lot of clarity to a lot of concerns that I've been hearing as well.
Thank you, Minister Duran, and thank you, Bibi. Judy, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Minister, I have a question as it relates to the utilities company. The judge had given GEBE until May 31st of this year to decide how to proceed with the whole issue of Mr. Temer, whether they should keep him employed or part ways with him, which would cost taxpayers 475,000 guilders. Can you indicate what has been decided? And also on the same issue of GB, they're still facing a lot of billing issues. We're still getting a lot of complaints from consumers who started receiving their bills again, but they're now no longer getting bills. GB has started disconnecting. Is there any indication as to when all of these issues would be, when we would see an end to this, when people will actually start being billed on a more consistent basis? And as it relates to Planet Hollywood, may I proceed?
Unfortunately,
No? Okay.
the two.
No? Okay, all right. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your question. With relations to the ruling from the judge with Mr. Temer, I do not have that information right now at hand. I would have to inquire. However, again, I believe that everyone has to deal with their responsibility. This is a case between Mr. Temer and GB, and I mean, you can't question G because they don't have a press briefing, but I think you can inquire in terms of asking them for clarity on that point. And I don't believe it's decent for me to sit here and talk about his personal relations with the company. That's my personal view on it, and I hope that that can be respected. Maybe it's otherwise, and I'll respond accordingly in general terms. With regards to the billing situation, I too, over the last couple of days, been receiving some serious complaints on that. Also with relations to the load shedding, I have a tour walkthrough, not a tour, more of a walkthrough, and a meeting with GB later on in this week, and I will be able to give some more insight to the general public on that.
Okay, I just wanted to say
Thank
we
you.
did reach out to GB and did not receive a response.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Stephen, you have the final question.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Minister, the integrated national vision for waste management you spoke of earlier on, can you give us an idea as to how this will be financed?
It's a vision basically on how we deal with our solid waste. And predominantly the finance is coming from the trust fund and all the different projects that are being implemented. So it's not only garbage, so to speak, as you would think, household waste and bulk waste, but it also deals with car wrecks, metal, and different things. So everything in its entirety. And it's a vision for the next 10 years, so to speak, on how we deal with our waste, which ties into the establishment and the enactment of the waste authority and all those different points. So it's a more general thing, and I'm more than willing to share it with you.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Members of the media, viewing and listening public, this does bring us to the end of the question and answer session. Members of the media, any further questions can be sent directly to the Minister's Cabinet. Honorable Minister of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, July 12, 2023. For rebroadcast, tune in to St. Martin Gov Radio via 107.9 FM, Telem's Tel TV Plus Channel 15, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, and YouTube channel Government of St. Martin. For video on demand, log on to the Government of St. Martin's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Rolika Roach and wishing you a pleasant day further.